those committees that have gone to Isiolo County to carry out our constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, when the Public Accounts Committee landed in Isiolo, we were scheduled to have our meetings at the Isiolo County Assembly. The Speaker of Isiolo County Assembly and the entire membership of the Assembly disappeared, including the clerk. We were only left with the Sergeant at Arms. The Governor, whom we had given notice that the Senate would be coming to Isiolo, was a no-show. Mr. Speaker, even the projects that the committee had come to inspect as part of its constitutional mandate, we could not get access to the projects. Mr. Speaker, one of the projects was a market and a county headquarter. The project manager is a Ministry of Public Works. Even the project manager could not get access to those facilities. Mr. Speaker, it must go on record that when we do what we do in committees, it is not vendetta and it is not pursuit for personal glory or any personal gratification. We are doing it because the Constitution requires us to oversight public resources that have been assigned to county governments. I want to say, having visited Isiolo, that the people of Isiolo deserve proper medical services just like the people of Homa Bay. The people of Isiolo deserve representation at the county assembly just like the people of Kiambu or Moranga or any other county. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that those things are not happening. But we cannot be a house that laments. Mr. Speaker, I perhaps do not agree that this House should be considering a censure motion against a governor because we have the power to impeach a governor. And so we cannot initiate the process that will lead to that impeachment. But what our clerks must do for posterity is to advise senators on the concept of contempt of parliament. Mr. Speaker, the directions that parliament gives in the event of contempt are still subject to judicial review. And yet contempt of court is not subject to any other review. Contempt of the executive is met with dire consequences. We have put ourselves in a position of weakness, Mr. Speaker, by subjecting issues of contempt of parliament to review of other bodies of judicial review. Mr. Speaker, in other jurisdictions, subpoenas are issued and the Inspector General or the head of the police has a responsibility to execute them. Let us not lament. The Inspector General of Police was vetted by this House.
Order, Senators. Senators, order. Let's listen to Senator Kajwang. 1 minute to conclude, Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, the Inspector General of Police was vetted by this House. And someone who's an appointee of the Senate cannot then have the guts to defy legitimate instructions and directions of the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, Senator for Kakamega, Senator Khalwale, has gone down in history as having led a march to the office of the Inspector General of Police. We should never appear helpless. Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to encourage the citizens of Isiolo to go to the County Governments Act and push for a motion for suspension of that county government because the activities of the governor and the ruling class in Isiolo are contrary to the common good of the people of Isiolo. However, Mr. Speaker, this conversation should not be localized to one governor or to one county. This is a problem that we are seeing across several other counties in the 47 county governments. And we need a solution. We need to strengthen the consequences for contempt of parliament without subjecting them to judicial review. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand here as a governor who has served 10 years and who has appeared before various committees, including that of Senator Kajwang, severally. One thing, as a governor from my region of northern Kenya, it's a bit embarrassing when you're invited by various committees and consistently you fail to appear, including the committee I chair. The role of oversight committees of Senate is to vindicate you from wrongdoing if you're able to appear and explain, the state of expenditure or issues of concern that has been shared. My worry is, what would the governor tell the people of Isiolo County as the reason for failing to appear before various committees of the Senate? And what is it that the governor is hiding so much such that the governor cannot appear before oversight committees of parliament? And what is very unique with this one governor of Isiolo County, Governor Guyo, so that all the other governors having their second term, the first term, are appearing before various committees. However, Governor Guyo finds it impossible to appear before various committees of the Senate. It should be a question that the public of Isiolo needs to ask themselves. What is our governor hiding? Why is it that our governor can't appear as other governors are appearing before oversight committees of the Senate? Because the opportunity to be able to appear and explain issues of concern that has been raised on behalf of the public of Isiolo is an opportunity that any leader, with sound mind at this level of a governor should be able to take that opportunity to freely come without being persuaded to come, unless there is something very serious that he's hiding, or he can't appear because he's ill-prepared to be able to appear. Because now, as you're leading a county and consistently you're being discussed for failing to appear before various committees of the Senate, and that puts you in a very embarrassing situation. I think the direction that the Speaker has given is a sound direction, and all of us need to take advantage of that to be able to make sure that this is enforced on behalf of the people of Isiolo County. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Senator Eddie Okech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why the Senator of Senator Chimera is very excited today. The Senator from Kwale. But that's fine. I think that he must be very excited because I think that the governor for Isiolo has frustrated the House for so many years, Mr. Speaker. And I have witnessed, Mr. Speaker, from my own committee, CIPIC, when the governor, first of all, was very reluctant to appear in the committee. But when he eventually appeared, he appeared as if the work that we were doing in that committee were not important, to the extent that it became a very bad exchange, Mr. Speaker. But that said, Mr. Speaker, whenever we invite, because we start with the invitation to governors to come and appear before the committees of the House, Mr. Speaker, and even if you further this by a sermon, Mr. Speaker, most of the time, these invitations are about audit queries. And audit queries, Mr. Speaker, if you look at all the audit queries that we have had, Mr. Speaker, they are there to protect the people of our respective counties from any exploitation of Article 43, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, if a governor doesn't show up and disrespect committees of the House, Mr. Speaker, I think that this is the best definition of a crime. And what I was expecting, Mr. Speaker, is perhaps a guidance to the committees of the respective, the chairs of the respective committees, that they recommend prosecution of such a governor. Because I don't think that having Inspector General of Police bring a governor who is rogue, who is exploiting his people, who is not performing for his people, who is actually wasting the resources of his people, and you want someone to appear before us, and he doesn't show up, just bring him before us doesn't help the people to get their services. Let the chairpersons of these respective committees recommend prosecutions, and let those recommendations come in form of a report to this House. Let us ratify those reports through the process of debates and consideration in this House, and let us forward the recommendations to DPP and recommend a prosecution. And I hope that Governor of Isiolo will be the first one to face the wrath of a House of Parliament that protects the people against such exploitation. So, Mr. Speaker, let recommend prosecution of this governor. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me first to raise a point of concern, Mr. Speaker, on our systems, Mr. Speaker. we really need to figure out how to deal with this issue of our systems, because we are facing a very important issue tomorrow. And if it happens that every time we are queuing to speak and suddenly the system drops, and then we are subjected to, either not offer our views, Mr. Speaker, we will not be doing justice to the people that we represent, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know what plans the Secretariat, the Clerk's office, the people in charge have for tomorrow, but it can definitely not be that when we are ready to speak, the systems drop. It looks a little bit awkward, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of the Governor of Isiolo, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that as a member of the Labour Committee, we actually had summoned the governor because he has allegedly employed over 45 advisors, Mr. Speaker, contrary to what is allowed in law. And you can see the level of impunity. If it is true that indeed he has employed over 45 advisors and he has refused to submit himself before the Labour Committee, Mr. Speaker, we are 100% sure that there's a lot of other monkey business going on in Isiolo, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, when we were issuing the summons of arrest from the Labour Committee, it was in the interest of the people of Isiolo, because if we as a Senate committee cannot trace where the governor is, for sure the people of Isiolo have no clue where their governor is, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I think it is imperative that even in future, if we amend the powers and privilege, if we amend the standing orders, that it should be imperative that at the points that the first committee has issued the arrest, a letter from the Speaker's office should just initiate that the culprit be arrested on the spot, Mr. Speaker. So we are looking forward to some action so that we can be able to account for the people of Isiolo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator James Morango.
Finally. Asante sana Mr. Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi. Kitu ya kwanza ningetaka kusema kwamba ni jambo la aibu, kwa sababu aliye gavana wa Isiolo Abdi huyo alikuwa mwakilishi wandi wa Matopeni. Ile wakati pia nilikuwa Matopeni wandi. Wakati pia mimi nilikuwa mwakilishi wandi wa Kerugoya, akawa kiongozi wa wengi, na mimi pia nilikuwa kiongozi wa wengi, nikakuja Senate na akawa gavana wa Isiolo. Na kwa sababu tunaamini kwamba ukipitia kutoka wewe ni mwakilishi wandi na umefika mahali ulipo, pia unakuwa umesoma mambo mengi. Na ni vibaya na aibu kuonekana kwamba sasa wale wanaofika kuwa mangavana kupitia mawakilishi wandi ni kama watu ambao pia wanaanza kuvunja sheria. Hiyo ni kutuharibia hata sisi, Mr. Speaker. La pili niseme kwamba Seneti tio tingatinga ambayo inatumika kutengeneza barabara mahali kuna mawe na miti, ikimaliza inawekwa kando isiharibu barabara. Tunapokuja huku kupitisha fedha ambazo mangavana wanatumia, lazima kwamba wajue ya kwamba lazima tutafuatilia kuona zile fedha zinafanya kazi. Na kwa hivyo gavana anapoarifiwa kwamba anafaa kufika katika kikao kwa kamati ya Seneti, anafaa kwa mapema afike, akuja jieleze. Inaonekana ni kinaya na pia ni kukosea Senate heshima, kwa sababu siku zote hizo wameitwa wamekataa kukuja. Mr. Speaker, niliangalia wakati kulikuwa na kikao ya Speaker ambapo gavana huyo alimtusi seneta wa Narok katika kikao. Na niseme kwamba hiyo si mzaa, sio kitu ya kufurahia. Ni kitu ambayo pia inaonyesha kwamba watu wa Isiolo kama sisi hatuwezi kuwatetea. Watatetewa na nani kwa gavana ambaye ni mkakamavu na amekosa heshima kiwango ya kwamba anaweza kuja kutusi seneta katika kamati. Kwa hivyo Mr. Speaker, ningesema ya kwamba achukuliwe hatua ambazo zinafaa kuchukuliwa, aletwe katika kamati zile zote, na ikiwezekana akuje awekwe ndani. Akija kwa kamati anarudishwa ndani, anatolewa kamati hiyo ingine mpaka amalize vikao vyote akiwa mbando wako ndani, kwa sababu akiachiliwa hatujui kwamba atakuja tena ama atatoroka. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Alexander Mundingi.
Asante Bwana Speaker, mimi naunga mkono vile maseneta wa county 47 wanaongea, kwa sababu mimi nilikuwa mmoja komiti wa REPA. Tumekuwa na kikao mara moja, ya pili, ya tatu, na pia seneta wa Isiolo Mheshimiwa Nduro amekuwa akihudhuria hiyo kikao na imekuwa na shida nyingi sana, kwa sababu tumekuwa tukimuhitaji akuja anjibu majibu vile ameajiri kazi watu wafanyikazi na vile analipa watu, na amekuwa akuji. Nakumbuka wiki jana tulisema aweze kutolewa summon na pia aweze kuangaliwa vile atalipa shilingi 1500. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono governor aweze kutafutwa na mkuu wa polisi aweze kuletwe, na kama ni rais wa Kenya